Hey everybody, welcome to Garden Hike. We've got a Cardinal Dogwood behind us here. This is one of the bigger dogwoods, can get up into that 8 to 10 foot range, maybe even a little bit bigger. And what we're going to do today with rejuvenation pruning is start this thing completely over. Now the two main reasons I'm going to cut this back is the twigs now, they're losing that winter color. If you take a close look here, they just start kind of getting this gray on the older twigs, and so you're not getting that cardinal color. If you look closely in there, you can see kind of the dark brown, even white stems. Yeah, that's all dead tissue. If a person wanted to keep the size of this shrub by thinning or whatever the case and start pruning in there, that's a long project. But on this, I'm just ready for something smaller for this season, and then we're going to look forward to seeing those vibrant new cardinal colored stems for that winter interest. We're going to go completely to the ground on this and completely start over. My preference is to use mostly hand tools. I rely heavily when we start getting into this branch size a little bit bigger than the thumb, the Loppers. This is a great size right here. It'll come about anywhere from a half-inch stem up to about a 1 1/4 inch stem, but you can get into bigger Loppers. Take a look at this guy. The thing about these is they'll cut a bigger stem, but you've got to have the strength to power through that stem. And different shrubs, different trees where you're using these have different strength of wood. So it can vary quite a bit if it's a softwood or a hardwood. We'll also be having to use a really nice hand saw, a super sharp one where we can cut through some of those bigger, older branches. I purchase pretty much all my horticulture tools from Leonard. I am an affiliate. I'm going to put a link in the description for you, but they've got so many great tools, shovels, pruning equipment, supplies for gardening. So it's just a really good resource to buy some of your supplies that you need. I'm going to start by just being able to cut some of those branches just a little bit higher. Allows us to get in there and get to work at some of them. So that'll just drop them down. Rejuvenation pruning can go pretty quick. I'll mention too that the month of March, April in our area, Northern Great Plains, Zone 4, these are just two of the greatest months, March and April, for doing almost every type of pruning, whether it be just light shearing, whether you're getting in there and you need to do some thinning cuts, or the full rejuvenations. That's what we're going to get rid of, some of that gnarly growth, and you can see that's alive tissue. Some of that's going to be dead in there. The dead tissue, you'll notice it has where the bark is starting to flake off. But by removing that, we'll create a lot of different stems. About 4 years ago, we cut this thing back to about 18 inches, maybe 2 feet, let it start over, and it was June until that thing actually started leafing out. But take a look at this, just as we get into August, it's put on really nice growth. And then by the time November comes around, look at these beautiful red twigs. And that's one of the main reasons I like to plant dogwoods, is just because of that brilliant red twig in the winter. The reason I left the stems higher the last time, one of the things about dogwoods, when they've got that nice developed root system under them, that stem growth is going to power out of there fast. And I've seen dogwoods before grow too quick for their own good. A windstorm comes up and it just blows down. By leaving just a little bit of a base, shall we say, you can offer a little bit of protection from the wind. Some of those new stems will come from latent buds on the old growth, but now there's just too much dead in there for me. You can use a chainsaw on something like this. In my opinion, you end up leaving a lot of really jagged cuts, so you should come back in after the fact and make a cleaner cut when you're all done. You don't have to, but anytime you've got a jagged cut, it's considered to be something that you're going to leave it more open to disease, insect problems. So a clean cut is always your best bet. I've done quite a few other videos on pruning. I'm going to put that into the description there. You should see a card coming across the top of the screen as well. I'll put the whole playlist. And I've got various videos on Potentilla spirea, the different 9 barks, lilacs. One of the challenges with dogwoods also, they have a habit called layering. If you get any lower stems and they've got contact with soil or mulch, they'll propagate, they'll self-layer in. Here's a really good example of that layering I'm talking about. You can see where that stem came down, was touching the ground. Yeah. Pull that up out of the mulch. You can see, look at all the roots. They came right out of there. Now, could you replant this? Absolutely. I would cut that off right here. You could plant that stem in the ground just like that. You've got a brand new free dogwood that will start, a Cardinal Dogwood. This was planted from a little #2 pot, small little shrub, and you can see just the base from that natural layering. We're out to 4 to 6 feet on this, so it becomes more and more difficult to keep it contained in a little bit tighter area. One of the reasons a saw can work so good, you can get in there a little bit better angle. You can't always get in there with the loppers because you have to pull those handles out. So this is one of the great tools on a multi-stem shrub that's got a lot of wild different branching happening. One of the best recommendations I can do for you, if you're buying a pruning saw, buy one that you can get a replaceable blade. It's really easy on pruning saws when you're going through to get a pinch or a snapback, and you can snap those blades right in half. The more you do that, the more pinch backs, the weaker that steel gets. So they eventually snap, but you can save yourself about half the cost on a pruning saw. I mentioned we would be all the way to the ground. I'll clarify, we are probably going to leave some of these, I would say, in that 4-inch height. So we'll be cutting it down nearly all the way to the ground. Anybody else sit around all winter like me and feel like you're out of shape by the time spring rolls around? It's going to be nice to get this completely cleaned up, get rid of some of that ugly wood in there. Now there's other dogwoods too that you can plant for winter interest, whether it be this cream de mint dogwood with that chartreuse stem. You've got some of the other deeper red varieties like the ivory halo dogwood, the Isanti dogwood, firefall. There's a bunch of different varieties. The dogwoods are also a great plant when you're in an area that's got saturation for a short period of time now and again throughout the season. They'll tolerate a very wet location. The other nice thing about that fresh twig, before you get into the fall and winter, it's kind of got an olive green stem, so that changes throughout the season as well. There's other great attributes on the dogwood. A nice spring white flower. They've got a nice little fruit or berry. Birds love them. They're going to actually eat those, and you might have them come up, volunteer around the yard. And then they've also got a pretty nice fall color on most of the dogwoods, whether it be into those reds, oranges, yellows, even kind of the different purple shades. Yeah, I tell you what, that really opened up this area. It's just amazing. Once we dry out a little bit, we'll get some of those old leaves kind of raked up out of there. We might have a stem or two that we can still get after and cut. I want to mention too that even though I like to do pretty much all my rejuvenation in late winter, you can do this in the fall. Just wait till you get some couple really hard frosts. For us, that means like 25 degrees Fahrenheit at least 2 or 3 times, pushing us usually into November. But these twigs, the dogwoods, they work great in what's called brush pots, or these ornamental fall pots. That's something you can consider if you have to do a little bit of pruning on your dogwoods. You can use them in those ornamental containers. And if you do have a dogwood that's layering itself out, moving out, getting too wide, you can take a shovel, go in, and you can sever those stems. Not going to hurt the mother plant at all. I can't do it today. I think it's a little bit frozen under here, yeah, due to the shaded nature of this and all the leaves, but it's definitely an option for you, and especially if you want to create some of those dogwoods in other areas in your landscape. You can never be 100% certain when you cut back a dogwood as hard as we've cut it back, but here's a Rejuvenate dogwood. This kind of came up on its own. It was self-seeded, and I cut this back to the ground about 3 years ago. Came back absolutely beautiful. I think the main thing to keep in mind, you want to have a healthy plant when you rejuvenate that hard. If it's stressed or half dead, you may not have a choice, it's worth it, but you won't always see as good a results. And before we let you go, we've got this Tannenbaum pine right next to the Cardinal Dogwood we just cut back. Unfortunately, this darn thing, it's picked up scale. It's an insect that's hard to control. Look at that white residue there. Yeah, that scale insect can really sneak up on a guy. You don't notice until sometimes it gets to be a little bit too late, but I'm hoping to do a video where we're going to spray this with neem oil, maybe some of the dormant horticulture oils, see if we can get that under control. That would be about a mid-April time period, and then we spray again mid-May. We have to control what's called the crawler stage, and then there's also, you want to smother that scale. That's where it overwinters. If you want to catch that video, hit subscribe, keep an eye out for it. But that's all I've got for this video. I appreciate you stopping by. We'll see you again next video.